I'll be honest, when the research regarding chronic traumatic encephalopathy began to surface, I think I was like in high school, maybe even younger at the time. And really, it flew under my radar because I've never really cared about football. It's just one of those sports I've just never been able to understand, despite people explaining it to me numerous times. And it doesn't really help when you go to school and somehow you're just expected to automatically know how to play. No one ever works with you to actually explain how to play the game. They just expect you to know. And then when you don't know how to play and are just stuck there, standing there, not sure what to do, and then the people laugh at you. And I am going way into too many personal stuff, but let's just say sports have never really been an interest of mine. Coming out of this movie, I'm both really glad I never went into sports, and I'm also really pissed off at the NFL for a variety of reasons. Like the fact that they're considered a tax-exempt nonprofit despite making millions of dollars every single year. If that opening monologue sounded kind of bitter, well, it's because it was, and I want to make it clear that I'm coming into this film with a clear, almost anti-football bias in mind. I just want to make that upfront right now. I'm watching this as someone who's never really cared about sports, and really kind of sees the NFL as the villains in everyday life anyway, and so I just want to make that clear upfront right now that that's the perspective that I'm bringing into this film. Now, Concussion is the story of Dr. Bennett Omalu, a forensic pathologist who observed chronic traumatic encephalopathy in the brains of numerous deceased former professional football players, prompting the National Football League to attempt to discredit and bury his research. As a film, it's engaging for the most part, as it presents a classic man versus society storyline of one person facing off against a powerful organization. It also attempts to tackle the themes of what it means to be a real American, and the often painful price of doing the right thing. What really carries this film is the acting. We have a pretty stellar cast in this film, and they all give really good performances. That said, the chemistry was a little bit lacking in certain scenes. This is mainly observed in scenes shared between Gugu Mbatha-Raw and Will Smith, as Will pretty much overpowers her in every single scene they share. I don't know if it's because of how the scene is shot, edited, written, or blocked, but Will Smith pretty much holds the focus of the entire film. Which makes sense, since he's playing the protagonist. It just made it hard to really observe any chemistry between those two actors. Speaking of cinematography, it's fairly hit or miss. On the one hand, there are some really creative transitions between scenes, but on the other hand, a great deal of the cinematography feels too cramped, kind of like they were going for a normal close-up, but accidentally went a couple of notches tighter. For some scenes, like the confrontation scene that's shown in all of the trailers for this film, it works, as that moment is a very tense, almost inescapable confrontation. But for other parts of the film, it just felt a little unnecessary. On top of that, when it comes to the scenes where we're seeing former football players succumb to CTE, they get a little too on the nose with some of its imagery. I understand that they need to clue the audience into the fact that these people were former football players, but splicing in footage from recorded NFL games just seemed a little too obvious. Not to mention that the clips are cut in so quickly that it makes the moments feel very jumpy and throw off the pace of the scene, and by extension, the story. Overall, this is a decent film that tells a fairly engaging story. The acting is good, even if the chemistry is lacking in a few places, and there are some creative shots here and there. That said, the cinematography and the editing as a whole is a bit lacking and a little too overt with some of its imagery. While I can't comment on the historical accuracy of the film, I can tell you that this is not a film for fans of football. And I'm talking American football for any of you European viewers watching, as this film may leave you straight up angry with the NFL, but like I mentioned before, that just may be coming from my own personal bias as someone who's never really enjoyed the sport. Point being, it's an okay film, but not one I would recommend right away. If you're fascinated by these real-world David and Goliath stories, then you may enjoy this film. I just don't see what about this film warrants a Christmas Day release. All of that said, Concussion gets a 3.5 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.